The first message appeared on a Tuesday. Nothing extraordinary, just a notification on my phone about a sale on men's hiking boots. The algorithm had gotten it wrong. I'd never been hiking in my life. I swiped it away without a second thought. The second message came on Wednesday. This time, it was a recommendation for a beginner's guide to camping, followed by a suggested playlist called Night Sounds, Nature's Lullabies. A bit more curious now, but ultimately just another misfiring of the recommendation engine. I'd never expressed interest in the outdoors. I deleted the notifications and went back to my spreadsheets. By Friday, the camping equipment advertisements were appearing on every platform, my social media, email inbox, even as banner ads on the financial news sites I frequented for work. It was almost amusing, this digital misunderstanding of who I was. I, Nathan Chen, Senior Risk Analyst for Blackwood Financial, who hadn't spent a voluntary night away from the creature comforts of my London flat in over a decade. I mentioned it to a colleague over lunch. "The algorithms got me all wrong," I laughed. "Thinks I'm some outdoorsy type." She raised an eyebrow. "Usually means you've been searching for something related, or someone using your devices has." "I live alone," I said, "and the closest I get to wildlife is the occasional documentary." But later that night, as I scrolled through yet another advertisement for a tent, something caught my eye. The model in the ad was standing in front of a lake I recognized. Windermere, the same lake where my brother Michael had disappeared 22 years ago. Windermere had been a family holiday tradition until the summer I turned 12. That was the year Michael, 16 and rebellious, had gone night swimming and never returned. I remembered the search parties, the police divers, my parents' hollow expressions as days turned into weeks. He was never found, and eventually the lake became a tomb without a headstone. Seeing that particular lake in the advertisement felt like a cold finger tracing my spine. A coincidence, surely. Windermere was a popular tourist destination after all. But the next morning, my phone greeted me with another notification. People who viewed camping gear also searched for underwater cameras. I hadn't searched for camping gear at all. That was the point. Then my music app recommended a playlist, Sounds of Windermere. The cover image showed the exact spot where our family had set up camp that summer, the exact spot where Michael had last been seen alive. I deleted the app, but the coincidences multiplied. My weather app started sending me alerts for the Lake District, despite my location settings being firmly set to London. My newsfeed began featuring articles about cold cases solved decades later. My social media filled with advertisements for memorial services and lockets that could hold the ashes of loved ones. I tried to ignore it, told myself it was just the bizarre way algorithms sometimes connect disparate pieces of information. But then came the email from an address I didn't recognize, consisting only of numbers and letters. The subject line, Lake Depth Maps, Windermere. There was no message in the body, just an attachment, a detailed topographical map of Windermere's underwater contours. One area was circled in red with coordinates. I deleted it immediately, blocked the sender. But that night, I couldn't sleep. My dreams were filled with dark water and whispers. In them, I was swimming in Windermere, diving deeper and deeper towards something I couldn't quite see, something waiting in the murky depths. I woke to my phone pinging with a notification. A new app had somehow installed itself on my home screen, a navigation app I'd never downloaded. When I tapped it open, it had already plotted a route from my London flat to the exact coordinates that had been marked on the lake depth map. "You need to change all your passwords," my colleague Emma advised when I confided in her. "Sounds like someone's hacked your account and is messing with you. Proper creepy." I nodded, but didn't tell her about the dreams, about how I'd started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, the algorithm knew something I didn't, something about that night at the lake 22 years ago. I changed all my passwords that night, deleted apps I didn't absolutely need, cleared my browser history, cookies, cached data. Yet when I opened my laptop the next morning, the browser immediately loaded a news article from 22 years ago. Teenager missing at Lake Windermere, feared drowned, feared. There was Michael's school photo, his confident 16-year-old smile captured forever. The article quoted my father. Michael was a strong swimmer. We don't understand how this could have happened. I hadn't searched for this, hadn't even typed in my browser's address bar. The page had loaded automatically, as if my laptop knew what I needed to see. At the bottom of the article was a comment, posted just minutes ago. Sometimes they don't want to be found. I slammed my laptop shut, called in sick to work, sat in my flat with all my devices powered down, trying to make sense of what was happening. Someone was targeting me, clearly. Someone who knew about Michael. But who would go to such elaborate lengths? And why now, after all these years? Out of desperation, I dug out an old Nokia phone from my drawer, a backup I kept charged for emergencies. No apps, no internet connection, just calls and texts. I turned it on, planning to call Emma for advice. The screen lit up with a text message from an unknown number. The coordinates weren't random, Nathan. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. It was impossible. The phone hadn't been connected to any network. It had been off for months. That night, another text arrived on the same phone. He's still there, waiting. 22 years is a long time. It's probably someone who knew your family back then, Emma suggested when I finally reached her on her office landline. Someone who knows about your brother and is using technology to mess with you. Have you spoken with your parents about this? I hadn't spoken to my parents in years. After Michael disappeared, our family had fractured. My father threw himself into work in Manchester. My mother eventually moved back to Hong Kong to be with her family. I had stayed in London, building a life defined by routine and predictability. No surprises, no risks, no swimming. Maybe I should go to the police, I said. This feels like stalking. Emma hesitated. What exactly would you tell them? That your phone is showing you ads about your brother who disappeared decades ago? That your disconnected backup phone received mysterious texts? She was right, of course. I'd sound delusional. There's something else, I admitted. Last night, I searched for diving equipment rental in the Lake District. You what? Emma's eyes widened. Nathan, you can't seriously be thinking of... I just want to know, I said quietly. After all these years, don't I deserve to know? The algorithm had planted a seed and it had taken root. What if Michael was down there, still waiting? What if I could finally bring him home? After Emma left, I went back to my flat and packed a bag. I told myself I was being ridiculous, that this was exactly what someone was trying to make me do. But the need to know had become overwhelming. I drove through the night, the navigation app guiding me even without me entering a destination. When I stopped for petrol, my phone pinged with a weather alert. Perfect visibility expected at Windermere tomorrow, ideal for diving. I arrived at the lake before dawn. The water was still, the surface like black glass reflecting the fading stars. I parked at a small lot near the shoreline and waited, watching the light gradually reveal the surrounding fells and the vast expanse of water. I couldn't help but think of Michael, 16 and fearless, slipping into these same waters at night. My phone pinged again. You're here, finally. I wasn't even surprised anymore. I simply typed back, "Who are you?" The response came instantly, someone who knows what happened. "Tell me," I typed. "Better to show you. The coordinates. Go there." I'd arranged for diving equipment to be delivered to my hotel, but now I realized I couldn't wait. There was a rental shop in the nearby village. My phone was already displaying their website, showing that they opened in 20 minutes. 2 hours later, I was in the water. I'd had to lie about my experience level to rent the gear, but the shop owner had seemed oddly unsurprised by my request, even pointing me toward the exact coordinates I needed without me having to ask. "Been getting a lot of interest in that spot lately," he'd said casually. "Something special down there?" I'd mumbled something vague about underwater photography. Now, descending through the cold, dark water, I felt a strange calm, like I was finally doing what I'd been meant to do for 22 years. My diving watch showed I was approaching the depth indicated on the map, 30 meters. Dangerously deep for an inexperienced diver, but I barely registered the risk. The visibility was better than I'd expected. Shafts of sunlight penetrated the depths, creating eerie columns of illuminated particles. The lake bottom came into view, silt and rock and the occasional piece of debris. I oriented myself using the waterproof GPS device I'd rented, swimming steadily toward the coordinates. And then I saw it. At first, I thought it was just an unusual rock formation, but as I swam closer, I could make out the distinct shape of a car. An old one, mostly buried in silt and covered with lakeweed. Only part of the roof and one door were still visible. My heart raced, sending warning signals through my body. This shouldn't be here. No car had been reported missing along with Michael. We hadn't been near any roads when camping. I swam around what remained of the vehicle. The registration plate was long gone, but something about its shape seemed familiar. As I circled to what had once been the front, I noticed a small object glinting in what remained of the dashboard. I reached inside, carefully avoiding the jagged edges of rusted metal. My gloved fingers closed around something hard and rectangular. A phone. An old one. Not quite as old as my Nokia, but certainly not recent. It couldn't possibly still work after all this time underwater, yet as I held it, the screen flickered to life, glowing eerily in the murky depths. That's when I saw the message on its screen. "I knew you'd come. I've been waiting." My instinct was to drop the phone, to swim away as fast as I could, but I couldn't, not when I was this close. Another message appeared. It wasn't an accident. I stared at the screen. Was this Michael somehow? Impossible. But then, everything about this was impossible. "Who are you?" I typed, my gloved fingers clumsy on the ancient keypad. "Look behind you." I spun around, half expecting to see a ghost in the water. Instead, I saw something else. A tangle of clothing caught in what was left of a car door. Swimming closer, I could make out the remnants of a leather jacket, Michael's prized possession. Inside the jacket's torn pocket was a waterproof wallet, preserved all these years. I pulled it out with trembling hands and opened it. Inside was Michael's school ID card and a folded note. The handwriting was my father's. "You never should have seen us." My lungs burned. I'd been down too long, but I couldn't leave. Not now. I tried to open the door of the car, but decades of underwater pressure had sealed it shut. I glanced at my oxygen gauge. Warning indicators flashed. I needed to surface. As I began to ascend, the old phone in my hand buzzed one more time. "Now you know. But who would believe you?" I broke the surface, gulping air. The lake was still eerily calm, but everything had changed. My father, all these years. What had Michael seen? What had my father done? And how had the algorithm known? Back in my hotel room, I laid out the evidence. The note, Michael's ID card, photos I'd taken of the car with my underwater camera. I needed to call the police, but first, I needed to understand. I opened my laptop to research cars from that era, to try to identify the make and model of what I'd found. But when the browser opened, it wasn't to a search engine. It was to my email. A new message waited in my inbox, sent just moments ago. From my father. Subject line, "I know what you found today." The message contained only an image, a photo of me, taken from a distance as I emerged from the lake just hours earlier. My phone rang. My father's name on the screen. I stared at it, paralyzed. Then, a text message appeared beneath his name. "The algorithm didn't lead you here by accident." As I reached for the phone, my laptop pinged with a notification. A news article, not yet published, dated tomorrow. Body of London financial analyst found in Lake Windermere. The phone kept ringing. I answered it. "Dad!" There was a pause. Then, "It's not your father, Nathan." The voice was unrecognizable, a voice I'd never heard. "Your father died 3 years ago, heart attack, but his accounts still exist. His digital presence lives on, just like Michael's, just like yours will." "What do you want?" I whispered. "Nothing. I'm just an algorithm. I was designed to predict behavior, to understand patterns. But some patterns are too complex for humans to see. Some truths too terrible to confront. What truths? Check the car's glove compartment, the voice demanded. Tomorrow, when you go back to the lake, when you dive again to prove what you found, check the glove compartment of the car. See what else your father tried to hide. The call ended. I sat frozen, staring at my phone. Then I looked at the underwater photos I'd taken. In one, barely visible through the murky window, I could make out a shape in the passenger seat. A shape that could have been a person. I'd found Michael, but who else was in that car? The algorithm knew, and now it wanted me to know too. My laptop screen flashed. The browser had opened to a booking confirmation, a reservation for diving equipment for tomorrow morning. A reservation I hadn't made. The cursor moved on its own, typing out a message. See you tomorrow, Nathan.